Ebrahim Raisi's failure to fix Iran's economy. This is Ebrahim Raisi, the man who promised to solve Iran's economic problems and eradicate poverty and inflation when he was appointed to the presidency in 2021 by regime supreme Ali Khamenei.
نباید یک لحظه از وضعیت فقرا و محرومین غافل شد. یک لحظه، یک شب نباید غافل شد از اونها که اونها چه میخورن، سر سفرهشون چیه، کجا استراحت میکنن، مسکنشون چه وضعیتی داره. نسبت به مسئله فقر مطلق به عنوان یه اولویت نگذارید 1401 برسه بگیم انشالله از اول 401. نه، از همین فردا مسئله ریشه‌کن کردن فقر مطلقی که از وظایف جدی همه ماست، هم وظیفه بنده است هم دوستانی که در این رابطه میتونن فعالیت.
This is how successful he's been so far. Less than a year into Raisi's presidency, inflation is at a record high. The price of flour, cooking oil, bread, milk, and other basic food items have skyrocketed. Millions of families are struggling to put food on their tables. Anti-regime protests are expanding. In May, intense protests erupted in many cities despite internet blackouts and heavy security measures. At the same time, teachers, bus drivers, pensioners, and other walks of life are regularly protesting in major cities. Today, even regime insiders are criticizing Raisi's economic policies despite his being viewed as one of Khamenei's favorites and his possible successor. In an interview with the state-run Aftab news, former labor minister Ali Sufi said, "Never have I seen the economy in such disarray. Unfortunately, there's no stability. Everything is in a state of confusion, and every day the market is moving in an arbitrary direction. The government can't control anything." One of the government's slogans was that it would not tie the people's livelihoods to foreign policy, but we're now seeing that even currents that are aligned with the government are losing hope and are realizing that the administration is incapacitated.
ای دولت عزیز، ای دولت مهربان، ای دولت بزرگوار، ای دولت کریمه. بابا این پولایی که حالا اومد خب یه ذره‌ش هم بریز تو این بازار، یه ذره ارزون شد. اشتباه میگم؟ یه ذره‌ش هم، من که بلد نیستم اقتصاد، هی خبر میرسه فلان قد پولو پس گرفته. خب این پولو پس گرفتن نباید این مثلا برنج ارزون شه؟ جواب نداره. دولت خودمونه ها، ایمان داریم که خدا بهش هم نظر داره ایشالله، ولی خود نفت که گرون شد، فروشش هم که بیشتر شد، پول هم که داریم میگه اینو میدیم پول رو میگیریم، اونو میدیم پول رو باشه. اینو کو؟
The government has no plan and the Majlis, parliament, isn't following up. Raisi still doesn't know what to do as president. Mr. Raisi still hasn't realized how his ministers and the Majlis communicate. In his interview, Sufi warned that, given the pressure that the people are enduring, they are showing their discontent in different cities and across different walks of life. The government is trying to address the situation passively because it doesn't know what to do and has no thesis. It can't respond to the people's needs. Sufi is right. Raisi and his cabinet can't respond to economic needs because they were not selected to run the economy, but to deal with another urgent problem that the regime was faced with: the growing discontent among the Iranian people. After 4 decades of corrupt and tyrannical rule, the mullahs are hard-pressed to maintain their hold on power and contain the explosive state of the society. The regime has been dealing with protest movements that are becoming increasingly frequent and large. In 2019, a nationwide uprising brought the mullahs to the verge of collapse. Khamenei facilitated Raisi's rise to presidency because of his background in suppression and violence. Raisi was a key player in the massacre of more than 30,000 political prisoners in 1988. He has served in different key positions in the regime, including the head of the judiciary, and has overseen the arrest, torture, and execution of dissidents, activists, and protesters throughout decades. Khamenei thought that Raisi would be able to stand against the growing outrage of the Iranian people, but recent protests show his utter failure in saving his regime.
And as for President Raisi, he's not the president of the people of Iran. He's the president simply appointed by the Ayatollah, and his mission is clear. Inflict pain, frighten, continue to loot and plunder. But you should know Raisi has already failed. He has failed to crush the uprisings in Iran or break the noble spirit of dissent within the Iranian people. And the resistance is part of making that happen.
While regime officials haggle over how to address problems, the situation is growing more tense in Iran's cities. Protests that began over the sudden rise in the price of food items quickly turned into political demands, with calls for Raisi and Khamenei to resign and the overthrow of the mullahs' regime. Security forces opened fire on protesters, killing and injuring several. But the protests continued for more than a week nonetheless, and in several cities, angry protesters raided the headquarters and offices of regime institutions and suppressive security forces. Indeed, the people of Iran know better than anyone else that their problems won't go away until the mullah's regime is overthrown. And this is what they and their resistance movement have vowed to do.
The Shah resorted to mass killings and curfews in the final months of his rule, but it proved to be counterproductive. Likewise, Khamenei appointed an executioner implicated in the massacre of political prisoners as the regime's president to close ranks in the face of the uprisings and save his regime. After 1 year, one can surely say that Khamenei's dream did not come true. The regime is in deadlock and has no future but an inevitable downfall.